If you're going through something, your body is seeking the completion. I can't give you completion. You have to find the completion for yourself, and it looks different uh, for everyone. And another word for completion you could just say is integration, is connection, is weaving this web of myself back together. And I can't do that for you. You have to do that for yourself so you can keep it. And part of that is, am I asking myself the right questions? Am I listening to the questions that are bubbling up? Am I listening to the truth that's bubbling up?
The importance of continuing to do this work, to continuing to reflect, to continue to ask those deep questions, like really can't be understated. All right. And there we go. We are live recording the next episode of the Soma+IQ podcast. How you doing today, Jaggers?
I'm doing well, Adam. Yeah, you know how the tech issues takes a moment to realign, but we've dealt with this before. If you're tuning into this live, welcome. If you are listening to this via the podcast, thank you so much for your time and your ears and your listening.
Yeah, really excited to dive into another one. And, today's topic is something that I know is near and dear to my heart. I know it's near and dear to your heart, and is really, for me at least, this like breath of fresh air in this realization of like when you can be this healing presence for another person, like just your presence alone is enough to create this environment, this cocoon, this container that allows another person to find that same thing within their self. So if we could just like go ahead and just get started off with like, what does it actually mean to be a healing presence for another person?
Yeah, Adam. It's been such a journey for me as a curious human, as a seeker, as someone who just has this burning desire to help other people. And I think going through my journey of, becoming a body worker, then becoming a coach, then becoming a teacher, and then studying all of these different modalities that, often have a protocol, and they all often have a mechanism that you are utilizing to support or to help or to intervene in this person's life. And after a while, trying all of these different techniques, all of these different protocols, and having all of these different tools inside of my tool belt, if you will, I come to figure out like what is actually the thing that's supporting more than anything. And we talk about this in the training as the fix it mentality, and it's a slippery slope that practitioners, therapists, people that are in helping professions, it's a slippery slope because at the end of the day, we don't actually know what's helping another person.
Yeah.
We don't know. And for those of you that are practitioners that are tuning in, you don't actually know in your mind what's helping another person, because our minds can't even fathom the intelligence of another person's body. Like, we have no clue how they are constantly repairing themselves. They're constantly healing. Their body already knows exactly what it is doing. And so me going through a training or a certification or learning these different modalities, and to think that I'm going to apply a protocol to help somebody, yes, it might work, but beyond that, um, the way in which I'm oriented, meaning the state of my nervous system, is going to have a deeper effect on them than any tool that I'm using. And I remember reading some research specifically when it comes to doctors and working with people that are in ICU. There was a study that went on that people that were in ICU that had a practitioner that had good bedside manner, which I've talked to plenty of doctors and therapists that say, there's a small section that we get taught on, and they're considered soft skills, and that's good bedside manner, how to listen, how to help a person feel calm, how to help them regulate their system. But all of that is what I would consider how to be a healing presence. And through, at this point in time, we've trained over 2,700 practitioners, and it's been so hard to encapsulate the message that we are trying to send at Somatic, because not only is the tool itself, the modality, incredibly powerful, and not only is the training incredibly powerful for people's own transformation, but really what I see, it's the people that are doing their own work for themselves and regulating their own system and go through the transformation. Like, that is the thing that's going to affect your clients more than anything, because it's beyond any protocol, any sort of tool that you're using. It's felt nervous system to nervous system. And the quote that rings in my mind always when I think about this is Mr. Gandhi himself. He said, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." And what I believe what he was speaking to is this idea of co-regulation, meaning that I can't fix or change the world. All I can do is work on myself. And through that, the ripple effect is actually what's going to create the change. So
Yeah.
that's the goal here, is to become the healing presence yourself. And in turn, that is the ripple effect that is felt by every person that you come into contact with.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it really brings up that, like, the sense of, like, as above, so below, right? Like, as within, so without. Like, that you hold within yourself is naturally going to not only be emanated from you, but it's also going to be reflected from the outside world back to you. So, like, this does kind of present the challenge, and I know I fell into this trap when I first became a practitioner. Like, I came to you in the training on my own journey, trying to
Yeah.
deepen, like, my own understanding of self, and then I started holding space for other people, and then it was like just this constant outpouring into everyone else. And about a year into my practice, I realized it's been like 6 months since I last did a session. I need to get back into it. I need to start doing it myself, because there was this going into first practicing and first holding space for other people. I was coming from what I gained from the training. I was coming from that really grounded, like, having excavated parts of myself and feeling so much more open. But the less we do the work on ourselves and the more we just focus on other people, all of a sudden it's like we get pulled back out of that depth, right? Like, almost that mentality of looking at self excavation as like diving. The deeper you dive into yourself, the more you discover. But the more you push into other people, or the more you pour into other people, it's like it pulls you closer and closer back to the surface of yourself instead of the depth of yourself. And so
Yeah.
for me, this has been the constant challenge of holding space for other people: is how do I continue to create space within my practice so I continue doing the work, so I continue cultivating that healing presence from within that naturally brings that healing presence out from another being. So my question to you is, like, for maybe the practitioners that are on here listening to this, or those that are wanting to become a practitioner, like, how does your own inner state really affect another person? And how do you balance this idea of holding space for other people while still diving deep into yourself and cultivating that inner state?
Yeah, that's such a good question, Adam. And through the years, the more that I go into this work, the more I realize that actually being a coach or being a practitioner, what's more important than anything is that you are making an actual commitment to, it's not about helping other people, actually. I know we say that a lot because it's oftentimes, yes, in a session, it's not about you. But really, this commitment to this journey is actually a commitment to your lifelong self-discovery, your lifelong practice of learning more and more about yourself. I have a lot of people that have worked with me or in sessions, they're like, how did you know the exact thing to say or the exact technique to use at the right time? Or like, are you just intuitive? Are you psychic? And not at all. I wouldn't consider myself either of those. Maybe intuitive a little bit, but most of the time it's because I've sat with the thing inside of myself long enough that allows me to recognize when another person's going through it. And it's a slippery slope that I've been down as a practitioner and as a coach, finding our own worth in how much we help other people. Like, it's being a practitioner, being a coach can be a subtle way that we feel like we're doing a lot of deep work for ourselves when we're actually just doing it for the other person, but we're not actually doing it for ourselves. It can give ourselves the feeling as if we're transforming, or if we're that it can give us this sense of vulnerability. But actually, you can be a coach and a practitioner and never be vulnerable and never actually go into the work for yourself. And so, and what will happen is you'll find yourself, it's the age old thing of like, I've helped everybody else, but I forgot to put the oxygen mask on myself. And then you actually probably aren't helping other people at the same time, because this is deeper than just being a practitioner. I've had to learn this very hard lesson in my life, that when and how to help another person. If another person in my life, such as my relationship or my parents or someone I love, is really struggling, what's actually helping them and what's not helping them? Like, if a person is struggling and they ask for my help, well, if I just fix the issue right away, then I've robbed them of their ability to overcome the hard thing. So what's actually helping them, right? We don't
Yeah.
know what's helping them. And I've had to deal with this specifically with my parents a lot throughout my journey. And it's taught me like what's enabling and what's helping and what's not helping. And the rule that I've found for myself is, if it feels good in my body and if it feels good for me, it's probably helping the other person. If at any point, if it does not feel good for me and I'm overextending myself, then it's probably actually not helping them. It's probably robbing them of their ability to overcome the thing and then learn the skill sets that are going to actually provide them the tools to overcome the thing later on in their life, instead of me just helping them through this thing right now.
Yeah.
So, this is a deep, deep rabbit hole. And it goes down the thing that we've been talking about a lot. Like, there's no such thing as a bad experience. There's a difficult experience. And I watch a lot of practitioners, parents that, humans in general that want to save another person. And you find your own worth in the ability of saving another person. And it's a slippery slope, because at some point you might not have anybody to save, and then where is your worth at?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of that like old adage of, you can give a man a fish and feed him for a day,
Mm-hmm.
or you can teach him to fish and feed him for a lifetime. And for me, in stepping into the space of being a breathwork practitioner and a coach, like that's always been my intention, is wanting to give people the tools so that they don't need me. They can be able to access everything that they need to when moving through something. And I do believe that that just purely comes from also having done the work myself, to know that it is helpful having another person to help you move through something. But if
Absolutely.
you have the tools yourself, there's so much more strength and so much more confidence that you can face all of those challenges that come into life, because you know that even if you have support and you have someone that you can lean on, you don't have to rely on them in order to move through a
Yeah.
difficult situation or a difficult day or a difficult encounter. And so like for me, this kind of leans back to this idea of like, it's really, really important, just like you said, to do your own work before stepping into really starting to hold space for other people. But then this poses the question, where's the divide? At what point
Yeah.
in time are you pushing off not helping other people and not sharing your gifts with the world because you're not healed yet?
Hmm.
Versus when do you know, when is that right time to start diving off that diving board to helping others because you've done enough work yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, that's another trap that we can get into. That's like, okay, I might not be healed enough to now work with other people or to support other people. And the answer to that is um, it's always time to show up in service.
Mm,
But at first, you got to show up in service for yourself. And when we say do the work, it doesn't mean like, okay, right now I need to sit down and do the work for myself, right? It doesn't work like that. It's just that, am I living my lifestyle? Am I running this question inside of my own being, that am I going through everything as a process of my own self-discovery?
mm,
Like, even if I don't feel adept in the point, or like right now, to start showing up for others, like, you're never going to feel fully ready. I just read a quote that was like, feeling ready is actually not a feeling, it's a decision. You're never going to be ready. It's a decision that you got to make. But the decision that you're making to be ready is actually just the decision that you're making, that everything that I'm doing is a process of discovery. So it's not that I'm, um, and this is where like going down our healing journey or doing the work for ourselves can be a subtle way that we kind of attack ourselves as well. Everything is an iteration, and everything is a process of just learning more about ourselves. Even in a session with a client, if I do something that didn't really land, or I felt like unequipped to handle what was going on, well, it's important for me to look into that, because that's going to now, I'm going to grow from that, so the next time I'll know
yeah,
what to do, right?
right.
So this it's a verb, right? It's just that I don't you can't measure how much work you've done for yourself and then now you're ready. It's just, am I living my lifestyle where everything is actually my own self-discovery process, even when I'm working with another client, because it's going to bring up all the stuff for me. And that's actually going to have a more positive effect on the people that you're working with too, because it's a tremendous amount of weight on yourself too, to take the responsibility of, I'm the one that has to help this person,
Yeah.
right? So then you're now carrying the responsibility of, it's my responsibility to fix or to change, or it's my responsibility for this other person's transformation. It's not. I'm going to do the best of my capability. I'm going to continue to hone my meta skills so I can attune to this other person. I'm going to create the container of the right conditions for this person to discover more of themselves. But it's actually not my responsibility for this other person's transformation. What my responsibility is, am I doing the work, or am I utilizing this as my own self-discovery process, so I'm continuing to learn? And what's fascinating too is that if you're also running a business and you're promoting yourself, I've witnessed the practitioners and the coaches that share from the place of, hey, this is what I've been going through, and this is what I'm learning about myself, and I've been holding these sessions, and this is what I'm learning through them. You might find this interesting. That often lands a lot more than someone coming from the place of acting like they are the know-it-all or the guru, and saying like, you should do this and you should do this, and hey, this is the way to do this. Like it's a different shift in your mind and in your state, that you're, I don't know the answers, but this is what I'm discovering.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that idea of what inherently works for another person won't necessarily work in the same way for another, because we've all walked different paths. We're all carrying different things, but it still is. And this is kind of like one of my own sticking points, to just be like vulnerable here, of I'm always hesitant of giving advice to another person based off of my own personal experience, because there's this chance of like, what if the advice that I give them leads them in a direction away from the direction that they're actually meant to go? Like, moving through the challenge yourself and figuring out what works for yourself is almost like a catapult to really finding the path that you're meant to be on, versus if you follow the path that another person has walked, that may actually steer you further away from the path that you are meant to be on. So it's another one of those like traps of the practitioner, right? This like
Yeah.
slippery slope of balance, finding the balance of what works well for you, while also offering enough freedom and space for someone else to find what works well for them.
Yeah, it is the age old saying of, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Yeah.
And it's because sustainable change has to happen from the inside out. I heard someone say this the other day, and I've witnessed this, like when I'm working with people, if I give somebody the answer, they're not allowed to keep it because it's not
Mm,
theirs. If you give someone an answer, they can't keep it because it's not theirs. They have to come to the answer for themselves. I can ask the right questions. This is it's a question answer game, and answers are not a process. They're kind of dead in a way. Like if I hand you an answer, it's already a completed thing. If you're going through something, your body is seeking the completion. I can't give you completion. You have to find the completion for yourself, and it looks different uh, for everyone. And this is why, like, asking the right questions and asking powerful questions that are that don't have as much of an agenda around it, of like, I want to get you to a certain place, I want to obviously every question that we're asking has some sort of an agenda, because we're trying to pull at some sort of thread. But is it spacious enough for this person to come to the answer for themselves? And that's a lot of the verbal communication that we teach inside of somatic, is how to ask questions that are powerful yet broad, that get people to come to the answer for themselves, so they can actually keep their own transformation,
yeah.
right? A
Yeah.
question pulls energy from the inside out and helps them find completion in their own way. And you could say that, like, my verbal cues are a question, the breath is a question. When you're going into a somatic breathwork session, it honestly is just a big question mark.
Mm,
That's like, what have I not been feeling in my body? How does my body need to move for completion? What are the emotions that need to come up for completion? What are the stories in my head that have yet to be integrated and connected? How do I find completion in it? And another word for completion you could just say is integration, is connection, is
yeah.
weaving this web of myself back together. And I can't do that for you. You have to do that for yourself so you can keep it.
That piece right there is what solidified that there was something different and special about somatic breathwork when I first encountered and had that session with
Mm-hmm.
you. Was those cues that are delivered from that simple and broad perspective drew me into such a deep place within myself that there's only been one other type of breathwork modality, and that was in a 10-day retreat in Peru that was coupled with a whole bunch of other things that made it so special. But to
Yeah.
be able to have these questions to start to ask myself, to start to really draw into that space of curiosity and really be like open to witness what's going to come up from that questioning is, and I'm sure a lot of the practitioners and people that are listening to this right now resonate with this if you've experienced a somatic breathwork session, because these questions are the powerful thing. They are the thing that are so supportive to that self excavation to find that healing presence from within.
Yeah. And even if you look at stress or trauma or difficult situations, all of all of those things are actually just questions to our being. It's like,
Mhm.
how do we overcome? How do we find the new adaptive pattern? And I would never say this to a client necessarily, but trauma is the thing that's asking you to grow.
Yeah.
It's asking you to overcome. It's asking you to find completion from it. And it's not necessarily your fault that the thing happened to you, but it is your responsibility to overcome it, right? So the life is like, our life is measured by the quality of questions that we're running internally inside of ourselves and the questions that are being asked from us, right?
Yeah.
We all have those big moments in life where it's like, okay, I've just lost my career, or I lost my relationship, or I'm about to have a child, or these big moments that are a big question mark that's thrown at you. What are you going to do? How are you going to overcome it? And it's when that we push the question down and we don't answer it is when our body starts to create symptoms. It starts to create these bubbling up of truth that's like, hey, it's all of those symptoms are just knocks on the door that said, are you going to answer it? Are you going to listen to this? Like, this is the language of the body, right? I just went pretty deep into this understanding of anxiety and depression and the cyclical loop that we get caught in with these two things,
Mm.
which is fascinating because oftentimes anxiety is just, there's a question that we haven't answered.
Yeah.
Anxiety is actually just a bubbling up of truth. It could be an emotion that we haven't let ourselves feel. It could be a need that we haven't been expressing. It could be that I need to make a career change, or I need to make a big shift in my life. It's anxiety is just the bubbling up of truth, but it's actually not the bubbling up of truth. It's the resistance to the bubbling up of truth. So anxiety is that truth is bubbling up. There's a question that's being asked to you. It's bubbling up. And then when we resist it, we push it down. That's the anxiety. And what happens is it takes so much energy from us to continue to push that down, that and then it comes back even stronger as a anxiety attack or a panic
Mm.
attack, and then we're like, no, 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 just push it down even more.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then it takes even more energy for us to push it down the next time. And then what happens is we become so exhausted from pushing that down that we get forced into a deep rest. We become depressed, and then we have no energy. We've lost connection to be able to hear the internal truth inside of us. Therefore, we don't have passion for our life anymore. We've stopped listening to the inner compass inside of us, and then we get burnt out. And we're not burnt out because we've been doing too much. We've been burnt out because we're not listening, and all of our energy is going to pushing that thing down. And then what happens is it comes back even stronger next time. And then we get swung in this loop back and forth until we answer the question.
Yeah.
What is my being telling me? What's on my heart? What's on my mind? And how do I complete, whether it's having the hard conversation, whether it's making the shift in my life. And all of these things are just trying to bring you deeper into homeostasis, or deeper into alignment, which we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Or you could say that it's deeper into your purpose or deeper into your soul's calling during this lifetime. It's all the same thing. I look at homeostasis as just it's balance and alignment of the path that you're trying to walk in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this conversation is really resonating. We actually just had a comment come in from our live audience. It's like, this is so juicy. Thank you. This is also what I've been reflecting on, this a lot, on the process of integration. And is it ever finished? How do I find completion? And can we?
We're always going to strive closer and closer to it, but we're never actually going to get there. And that's the thing, is we're never healed. It's like, if you're familiar with the Fibonacci sequence that I have on my arm, it's always going to try to get closer and closer and closer to the center, but it never actually reaches it. And this is like, there are no straight lines in nature. There is no perfection. There's only imperfection. And we're like, every one of our bodies, no one is completely symmetrical. No one is completely perfect. We all have a little bit of distortion in one sort of way, but our being is craving that we're on the journey of moving towards completion. And even if you look at like life as a like a straight line of energy, meaning that like my life and then my kids and then also my parents' life before that, like what happens is when we are born, like my mom's nervous system and my dad's nervous system come together and they create this gift, which is me. And basically what it's saying is, here, take all of the stuff that we've completed and take all of the stuff that we haven't completed, and here, try to make it better, and then pass it down the line. And it's just going to continue and continue on that. We're going to pass down the things that we've completed, and there's going to be a lot of things that we haven't completed. And we're going to continue to pass it down the line. But life is always going to strive for more and more balance, but we're never going to get there. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So it really is. It's this never ending journey of self excavation, but also self exploration of in a way, like from what you were saying, is like we get these gifts from our parents that are the things that they completed, but then we get these challenges from our parents or these patterns from our parents that were the things that were incomplete. So it's like we're given all of these things that just help us to move further and further along towards completing the things that haven't been completed yet.
Yeah. And then life is going to ask us more questions that are going to give us more things to complete, right? And this is the process of evolution and growth, because life inside of it naturally wants to grow. It naturally wants to find balanced growth within it. And so there's never an end destination, right? It's not about the place that you're getting to. It's about the journey of it. And it makes me think of, and I have to remind myself constantly of this. There's a quote from Alan Watts that's like, there is no, like when you're playing music, the goal of it is not to get to the end of the song, right? When you're dancing with your lover, it's not to get to a certain place on the dance floor. It's to be fully engaged in the moment of it. And to bring this full circle, as a practitioner, it's just a commitment to be fully engaged in your own process of self-discovery. Process meaning that it's never going to be done, because it's a verb, it's a process. But are you engaged in it? Are you fully engaged and least attached to the outcome of it? And that's going to be the sweet spot. And when you're in that state, what you're communicating to everyone else's nervous system is not that I have all the answers, but it's that, hey, look, I'm on the process. I'm in the process as well, and I'm doing it for myself. And it's like my nervous system is singing this song that helps everybody remember the lyrics so we can kind of sing it together.
Yeah.
When people
Yeah.
have fallen off the path and don't remember the song of life, when they come and co-regulate with me or connect with me, that I don't have to necessarily tell them what to do, but just their energy uh, being connected with mine is going to help them remember their humanness, which is helping remember that they're a process. There's nothing broken within them. And their body and their being knows exactly what to do. You just have to listen to the song and sing your own lyrics in the same key of life, right? I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to get too musical on everyone.
No, no, I love at how much you've tied this idea of like being a healing presence in with music, because it makes me think of like tuning forks, right? If you have
Mm-hmm.
two tuning forks that are of the same frequency, you've only got to hit one to get them both vibrating at the same frequency. But
Yep.
if you have two opposing tunings of tuning forks, no amount of hitting one tuning fork over and over and over again is going to make the other one chime, because they're just different frequencies. So
Yeah.
it's like I've had this experience just through my own healing journey of meeting certain practitioners that were utilizing a modality that I wanted to try and see if it would help me, and there just wasn't a resonance. It just
Yeah.
didn't jive, because the frequency in which they were showing up from wasn't the inherent frequency that my body was trying to find. And I think that's something that's really special about this particular community of somatic, is that that's what happens. It's like, even though we all might be slightly tuned a little differently, some might be a little flat, some might be a little sharp, but yet
Mm-hmm.
we all find this resonance through the breath. We all find this space that when we can actually let go of the pressure, when we can let go of the fix it mentality, when we can let go of trying to get to a certain destination, but just be with what is in this moment and what's wanting to move through, that's the magic. Like, that's when we find that space of resonance that really allows us to unfold in the time period in which our body is ready to unfold.
Yeah. That's why I love the word discovery, because there is no end to it. If we're in the discovery, we're just going deeper and deeper and deeper into ourself. And if we're on that path, well, then we're going to just continue to connect deeper and deeper and peel the layers that get stuck onto us while life is continuing to move. There's more shit that's going to get thrown at us.
Yeah.
But if we're in the self-discovery process, it's like you are what you repeatedly do. You're not what you do sometimes. And so if you're looking at every moment as a process of self-discovery, whether it's inside a breathwork session, whether it's connecting with your lover, whether it's outside, whatever you're doing, it's a discovery process that you're continuing to go inward. And as a practitioner, what you're really doing is you're just being a self-discovery guide. You're just being with somebody for them in their own discovery of themselves, and to help clear away all of the stuff that's actually not them. But
Yeah.
they have to figure that out for themselves, or they're not allowed to keep it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this idea, and I'd like to pull on this thread a little bit more, if you don't mind, Jaggers,
Yeah.
of we can give somebody the gift of an example, such as like our nervous system
Mm-hmm.
just being regulated. Like, that's the
Mm-hmm.
example when we're around another person, that we just feel at ease when we're around them, because they don't have to say anything, they don't have to do anything, but purely just the presence in which they're being from sets our nervous system at ease. It's not something that we have to like do anything specifically to try and achieve that. It's just being around that other person. And so, how do we continue to cultivate this gift while also not applying the pressure that
Mm-hmm.
we need to become something different, or we need to truly change. Like I think this is bringing up another one of those traps on this journey, both from a client perspective and a practitioner perspective, of that there's this certain state of being or this certain person that we need to become or that we need to be. But at least speaking to my own journey, it was more so about letting go of needing to become this like ultimate version of myself, but more,
Mm,
how can I just accept everything that I am right now while still being okay that I am a verb and I am a process, that I am going to continue to change? And how can I continue to be okay with that person that I'm unbecoming and becoming all at the same time?
yeah. Oof. That's such a good question, Adam. And I would be lying if if I didn't say that I don't struggle with that myself. And the the bigger shift for me is not being so specific. I know when I'm specific inside of myself that I get into traps, meaning that, like, if I have a certain exact vision for my life, that's great, but it probably is not going to look like exactly how I envisioned it. And if I'm measuring my reality up to the exact of it, then oftentimes it's never going to be the same. It just is never going to be the same. But if I'm headed in the river of that direction and I have the internal compass that that helps me make decisions over and over, and I'm personally, I feel like I'm moving in that direction, in that river. If I can stop and let myself really tune in that it's like I'm not exactly where I want to be, and I'm not exactly the thing that is probably coming from the should in my head
Mm-hmm.
or the should in my being. But as long as I'm in the river of movement in that direction, and I also am listening and connected to the compass inside of myself, and I can stop and acknowledge that, because that's probably the hardest part, then I usually can take the pressure off myself. But the pressure is there either way inside of me because I want to grow. It's just, is the pressure um, coming from a beneficial place? And can I also relax into that I'm on the journey of it? And
Yeah.
I have the compass, I have the somatic awareness, I'm connected to myself, that I trust myself to make the right decision. I think that's the piece. Is it's not about the thing that you're becoming, but it's about, do you trust yourself in your becoming? Do you trust yourself in the process of becoming? Because it's never about where you're going to get on the dance floor or getting to the end of the song. And if you get to the end of the song and the end of your life and you haven't become the exact thing that you want to become, well, you're probably, I would imagine me at the end of my life, like, holy shit, why did I put so much pressure on myself during that, instead of just enjoying the process of my becoming and trusting the internal compass that's inside of me? And part of that is, am I asking myself the right questions? Am I listening to the questions that are bubbling up? Am I listening to the truth that's bubbling up? I think the thing that's going to matter to me at the end of my life was, did I live a life that um, I was connected to myself, and did I actually take action and tell the people around me how I felt, and did I go on that journey of truth that's bubbling up inside of me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, speaking of really good questions, there's one that came from our live audience of how do we keep it simple and body based, feeling instead of creating another loop thought or mental story when sharing with another person?
How do we keep it simple and body-based feeling instead of creating another loop thought mental story when sharing with another? There's kind of two different questions. So it's like, how do I do it for myself first? How do I keep it simple and body based instead of like the mental story in my
Yeah.
head? And then we can talk about sharing with another person, because that's a whole different, like, that is just based on like the connection to myself. It's based on the first half of that question. So for me, we talked about this a little bit in our last podcast, which was, um, I don't trust my thoughts. I don't. First off, you have to be very weary of your thoughts. You have to, and this is why we do so much of the somatic awareness piece, because the thoughts are always going to be connected to the state of your body. Like if I'm hungry and my blood sugar's low, what thoughts am I going to be having during that time? If I'm frustrated and I'm angry, what are the thoughts that I'm going to be having in that time? So it's sitting with the thought. And if the thought stays there for a while, then you know there's something there. But thoughts are, and I can't remember who said this, but they're like clouds in the sky. And if you can sit with yourself while those clouds are kind of moving through, and just notice if, as my physical body state changes, how are the quality of my thoughts changing? And if the thought is continuously staying there, well, then there's something to look at it. But if it's not there in 7 days, or if it's not there in a couple days, when I've done all the things that I need to do to take care of my body and I've processed the emotions, well, then cool. Okay, now it's time to actually look a little bit deeper into that thought. But when there's loops in the mind, you'll always know that something's coming from your mind and not your body, because it will take you through loops and tunnels, and it will, like, it will tell you, if you do this, then that will happen, and then these people will say this, and then, like, it'll take you these loops and tunnels if you decide to go down it. So if you can just kind of watch and observe it and look at your body as the antenna, and as you're moving through life and you're taking care of the antenna, then watch how the quality of the thoughts change. And if it stays there for long enough, then cool, it's time to go into it. And then from there, communicating it to another person, well, that's on you. And there's no like right or wrong way to do so. I mean, we talk a lot about this in the communication portion of our course, where all we can do is try to clean our side of the street and take ownership of what I'm trying to communicate. Like, it's a slippery slope of trying to tell somebody that, they're making you feel something, or they're causing the thing in your life. And maybe they are, but you always want to tailor your language in a way that you're taking ownership of the thing. Like, this is why we use the story in my head right now that's playing is this, not you did this and this is what happened. And I'm not throwing it at them, but it's and specifically the thing that I see more than anything is when we're in a state of people pleasing. That is the thing that gets us into trouble, because we first might not tell the person, or we might hedge what we're saying, hedge our truth quite a bit before we say it to them, that we're actually not telling them the truth. Like, there might be parts of the truth, but I'm withholding a lot of it because I'm afraid of it affecting this other person. And so the practice for me, and I can only speak for myself, has been, can I say the thing without worrying about how it's going to affect them? Like, can I say the thing without trying to make it nice first? Which is so fucking scary for so many of us.
Yeah.
And you might trigger other people, but it's better to say the truth, and another person would rather have your truth than have a half truth and a hedged truth,
For sure.
and then be triggered. So the first process in that is just saying the thing without trying to filter it and make it nice. And then as you get better at just communicating your truth, taking ownership of it, like not giving your power away, that it's my responsibility. This is what's going on within me. then you can start to learn how to curate it in a way that's going to land within their nervous system a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that also brings up and kind of steers us back to this idea of like having this healing presence, and kind of what you touched on in like the anxiety and the depression of like when you're in these certain states of being, how you're going to express yourself, how you're going to vocalize yourself, the thoughts that you're having, the questions that you're asking yourselves are all going to be kind of muddied a little bit based upon where your current emotional standpoint is and your own
Mhm.
emotional experience. So this always brings up then, when you find yourself in one of these states, what would be your advice to communicate these truths and not hold them back, while also not projecting them from that emotional state that you're in? Say like you're angry and something really triggered you. How do you articulate that without projecting that anger onto the other person, while still communicating that something happened that did affect your emotional state?
Yeah. Yeah. It's always easier when you have a person that you're around that you feel safe with. Like there's a lot of this will just probably cause you to take inventory with the people that you're connected to in your life. Because for me, I like a non-negotiable for me is I want to be surrounded by people that have emotional intelligence, that understand this like this is part of the reason why I'm getting this out there, because this is a language that it's language is not something that just one person can speak, right?
Right.
We need other people to be versed in this, or it's not always going to work, because you can only do so much yourself. So having a partner, having other people in your life that can understand that, hey, I'm angry right now and I'm not going to take it out on you, but I'm going to go take 20 minutes and move this through my body so I can come back and let you know from a place of clarity what's going on.
Mm,
There's a difference between, and most of us have never experienced that. We've
sure.
never experienced, because um, what we've experienced is reactivity instead of responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about the term responsibility with like being an adult. And I think that not a lot of us had examples of what adults actually are. Like we probably had parents that were children in a lot of ways. To me, what makes someone an adult is that they're responsible, and not responsible from the place of like, I'm going to pay bills and all those things, but meaning that I have the ability to create a space between a stimulus and my response.
Mhm.
A child, something happens to them and they're just going to explode and their emotions are going to go all over the place. Right.
Yep.
And the journey of supporting them to learn the difference between like healthy containment and suppression, because there's a difference between containment and suppression. Like a healthy adult um, is not going to suppress an emotion, because if you're suppressing it, it means that you're pushing down and you're not answering the question. But containment means that, oh, something's bubbling up in me right now. It's not the right time for me to actually like throw this on somebody. I need to hold it for a moment, and I need to find my own resourced way of moving it through me, whether it's martial arts, whether it's breath work, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's meditating, whether it's like hitting a pillow, whatever it is. I'm going to let it move through me, not at somebody, but just through me. And then I can come back and actually let you know what that emotion was informing me on, because emotions are they're there to inform you on a social dynamic that has either pushed you in one direction or pulled you in a direction. Emotions, like we talk about, they're the connective tissue of life. They're like the fascia that pushes and pulls people away and towards each other, right? They create love and relationships, and they create war and anger and conflict, and um, but they're there to inform us. And we're not going to be informed clearly if we're acting from the emotion. we're going to be informed by it if we take the space. This is why we hold space for people to digest their experience. But we're going to be informed by it if we give ourselves enough space to feel the emotion, to let it move through us. That way, in my responsibility, in my response to the other person, I'm not going to be reactive and muddied by the thing, but I can actually give you a response that I've digested the situation, and now I'm going to actually let you know what the bubbling up of my truth was.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, the like more time and space that you create for yourself on like what we've talked about throughout this whole conversation around doing your own internal work, the more you discharge out of your nervous system, the easier and easier it is to have these conversations when things come bubbling up, because there's not so much of this like charge behind those emotions. And that's one thing that I've noticed in practicing somatic breath work for, here in a couple months, 4 years,
Yeah.
that like I still have moments where I get upset.
Oh,
Like that
yeah.
that might be hard for some of the practitioners that are on here that have been students that see us mostly from this like common collective space within the container. But like I still get pissed. I still get frustrated. There's still
Yeah.
things that like trigger the F out of me. But the thing that I've noticed the most is that when I am triggered, it's not volatile anymore. It's not an
Yeah.
explosion. It's a
Mm-hmm.
it's like a I think the best analogy I could use, like instead of it being like a quarter stick of dynamite like it used to be, now it's just a little snap cap.
Yep. Yep.
It just it snaps, and then I can quickly bring myself back in. So
Mm-hmm.
like I say this to kind of emphasize the point that we've been trying to make on this podcast, that it's beautiful to have the intention for holding space for other people, to want to be that healing presence for another person. But we can only take people as deep as we've gone ourselves, and we can only assist people in the range that we've created within ourselves. So, the importance of continuing to do this work, to continuing to reflect, to continue to ask those deep questions, like really can't be understated.
Yeah. It can't. And I can't help but think of just the day that I'm a father or a parent in some sort of way, because I'll probably be tested on all of my theories here.
Yeah.
It's one thing to, and if they're parents that are listening out here, it's one thing for me to speak about this from a place of, just business relationships and romantic relationships and client relationships and all of these other relational dynamics. But I would assume that probably the biggest test of these this becoming a healing presence, becoming a guide for someone's self-discovery process is through is through parenting.
Mm.
And um, yeah, going on this journey of being a helper, of being a healer, is a commitment to your own self-healing, self-discovery process, because we can't do it for another person. Like we said in the beginning, it's the Gandhi quote: you got to be the change that you wish to see in the world. And the more that I do that, the more that just me co-regulating with other people, I don't have to do as much. I don't have to do the hands-on techniques. I don't have to do trying to say the right thing. I don't have to utilize my energy for all of these things. It's just in the presence, in the space that I'm creating, that allows somebody to find completion for themselves.
Yeah. Well, Jaggers, if you're open, we've got a couple of questions that have come through in the chat. If you're open to taking, say, like one more before we call it an episode.
Let's do it.
All right, well, let's take a look and see here. Hmm. How do we stay authentic and show that we are still struggling while promoting ourselves on social media when the wellness space usually rewards looking perfect and powerful?
Well, this has been a journey for me. Your mind is going to say that looking polished and professional and perfect is the thing that's going to, attract abundance and clients inside of your life, but it actually is not. It's the humanness that's going to attract people. And I can say that building a pretty big business solely from uh, social media is that in the beginning, we grew this massively from just organic, from grassroots, just by me, just out there sharing when I'm messy, when I'm feel polished, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we have a business now, and we need to be polished and perfect, and it kills the life force in it. And then now it's been like, okay, how do we make this like grassroots human feeling again? Because that's really actually who we are at our core.
Yeah.
And so the question I would say is that um, authenticity and vulnerability, like vulnerability is the way that you're going to get people to connect to you, but it's not you just hopping on there and saying like, I'm struggling and these are all the things that I'm going through. Vulnerability is really you just sharing where you're at and what you're learning along the way. Like, because if you're showcasing that you're not stuck in it, but that I'm going through the process for myself, that's what's going to call people in, because they're going to resonate with it. Like for me, I actually spent a lot of time alienating myself by creating this, and I haven't done this in a while, but I remember in the beginning, I was like, I have to create this image of like, an educator and I'm a clinician. And I'm like, it's because at the core of me, it's like, I want to be respected because I want to feel like I'm enough. Right. But truth be told, you actually only need to be like one or two steps ahead of the people that you're helping. And actually, being only one or two steps ahead, you're actually much closer and you're going to be able to speak the language that those people understand. And so if you're sharing from a place of like, this is what I'm going through and I'm learning from this, that's what's going to work more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that message, Jaggers. And really it's been beautiful to just like watch your journey unfolding over the years and seeing at how, your presence on social media has like shifted and changed. And now I
Mhm.
love seeing your content when, especially like when you're skateboarding and you're just like,
Yeah.
there's this beautiful playness that I feel that
Yeah.
you've found recently in life that you're truly tapping into, that is such a
Mhm.
beautiful invitation to love and live life to the fullest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good metric for me on success is like, how playful do I feel?
Yeah.
Even when things are hard, because play is actually, um, children love to play because play is the way that we learn more than anything. And if you can create situations that you're playing, you're going to learn things so much quicker. And that's how we grow. That's how we evolve. So if you look at life as it's a grand play, how do I play in this sort of way? Even when it's hard and difficult, I'm going to learn through this process.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, we went through all kinds of different rabbit holes today
Yeah.
on this episode. Like I really love this open format, and especially like really enjoying having the audience here to give us some questions and kind of help to steer the direction in another way. So those of you that joined us live through our school community, thank you so much for your time, your presence, for joining us here, and thank you for bringing the great questions. Continue to look at the calendar. We'll continue posting when we're going to go live on these podcasts. You all can join us again and help to just continue to expand the experience and the beauty that it is being here, being in open conversation, and continuing to grow and expand together.
Yeah. Thank you so much for just being an incredible host, Adam. And as we do often, we have our upcoming 3-day workshop this next week, October, what is it, 7th?
7th, 8th, and 9th.
So I'll be running that. If you want to join in, if you want to get a session, I would love to have you there. You can sign up for that within the link if you're listening to this on Spotify, or through our school community, or basically anywhere somatic breath work.
And if you are tuning into this episode after October 7th, 8th, and 9th, and you'd still like to experience the workshop and you're not joining our school community, make sure to join our free school community. That way you can get notifications when we do another workshop, but you also have the opportunity to purchase the replays from our current and previous workshops. It's a fantastic resource. And it's also how you can access this live recording from the podcast and how you can ask us questions real time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Adam. And thank you all for tuning in.
All right,
Love you
everyone.
guys.
We'll catch you on the next one.